Did you know that Shirley Temple's parents stole nearly $3 million from the young actress? Temple might have been one of the first child stars to get swindled by her parents, but she definitely wasn't the last. Macaulay Cuklin, Ariel Winter, and Jena Malone are just a few of the stars who filed for emancipation from their parents after they grossly mismanaged their career earnings. Gossip Girl star Leighton Meester was even sued by her own mother for millions of dollars. Here are 10 child stars whose fortunes led to some serious family problems before they were able to take their careers into their own hands. In the 1990s, Home Alone star Macaulay Cuklin was one of the most famous actors in the world, even though he was still just a child. Unfortunately, being famous and a minor can have some undesired consequences. In addition to the fame that could sometimes be suffocating, Cuklin had to deal with some serious family drama behind the scenes. When Cuklin was 15 years old, his parents separated, and it was his money that became a central part of the custody battle. Culkin's mother was trying to use part of the actor's $17 million of earnings to buy herself a new home, so the young star lawyered up and filed a petition to emancipate himself from both of his parents. His mother eventually won custody of Cuklin, and he lived with her until he turned 18. But Cuklin was able to protect most of his fortune, which had grown to about $50 million, by illegally taking his parents' name off his trust and finding someone else to look after his finances. The OC star Mischa Barton was everywhere when she was a young adult. The Fox drama was an immediate hit with fans, so Mischa's manager and mother, Nuala Barton, decided to take advantage of her daughter's newfound success. When Mischa was discussing payment for a horror movie in 2013, she realized that her mother had been lying about Mischa's wages and was pocketing all the extra cash. And that wasn't her only problem. Her mother had also thrown her out of the $7.8 million Beverly Hills mansion that she'd encouraged her famous daughter to buy. Mischa quickly filed a lawsuit claiming her mother stole her money to buy a house and sued her for $25 million. The young actress claimed her mother was using the funds as her own personal income and wasn't actually doing any work to earn a cut of the money. In 2016, Mischa Barton suddenly withdrew the lawsuit and never explained why, but her mother is no longer involved with her career. Gossip Girl star Leighton Meester had a complicated childhood that included her mother giving birth to her while in prison. Her problems with her mother would only get worse later in life when Constance Meester stole $7,500 a month, which Leighton had been sending to her family to help cover her brother's medical bills. Instead, Constance used the money to live a life of luxury, which included expensive designer clothes and plastic surgery. Leighton decided to sue her own mother in 2011 and revealed during the case that her mother had threatened to sue her back for $3 million if she didn't start sending even more money every month. Leighton ended up winning the case, leaving her mother with no more pockets to pick from. Amanda Bynes was an energetic and positive child star in hits like The Amanda Show, but she didn't reveal until much later in life that her parents might be taking advantage of her career. In 2014, that star went on a Twitter rant about her parents, accusing them of withholding her belongings and money. At the time, her parents had been given a conservatorship over her estate because of some mental health issues that ended up with Bynes being hospitalized. In her rant, she also accused her parents of not letting her use her money to buy clothes or rent an apartment. In an Instagram video, she even said that they forced her to go to a more expensive therapist that charged her $5,200 a month and didn't even accept her insurance. In 2017, Amanda was finally given control over her finances, but her mother still has a say in her medical decisions. The ruling was based on Amanda's great relationship with her parents, so it seems like all is well in the Bynes family for now. Modern Family star Ariel Winter might have had the perfect on-screen family as Alex Dunphy, but her real-life family issues resulted in her not having any control over her finances until she was 16. Ariel's mother, Crystal Workman, was accused of constantly insulting her daughter, putting way too much pressure on her while she was starring in the hit television show, and using her daughter's wages, which were about $100,000 per episode, for her own expenses. In 2012, the actress was removed from her home, got a restraining order, and tried to obtain control of her own money. She fought her mother in court for 2 years until guardianship was finally granted to her older sister, along with control over her finances. Then Ariel began the process of officially emancipating herself from her parents. She won the case in 2015 at the age of 17 and has kept her distance from her parents ever since. Shirley Temple might just be the most famous child star ever. She was in 44 films before the age of 12 and was arguably the biggest star of the 1930s. But that level of fame ended up with Temple's hard-earned money being squandered away by her family, and she didn't even know about it. When Temple was working, her mother received $250 a week, and the young actress only received about $20. At the peak of her career, she was making more than $10,000 a week, but barely saw any of that either. Temple believed a lot of her earnings were being saved up, so when she decided to retire at only 22, she was surprised to see that her fortune, which should have been about $3.2 million, was only about $44,000. It turns out that her father had failed to place her earnings into a court-ordered trust, leaving Temple with very little to show from all her hard work. You might recognize Jenna Malone best from The Hunger Games, but in the 1990s she was a pretty famous young actress appearing in films like Donnie Darko. But by 1998, Malone's lucrative young career had turned into some huge family drama. At the age of 14, the young actress filed a lawsuit against her mother for spending almost $1 million of her hard-earned cash. At this point, Malone had already moved out of her mother's home and was trying to protect her assets. The case ended up being successful and Malone was emancipated, allowing her to go ahead and continue her career without worrying that her mother was busy lining her pockets. Despite stricter laws about working minors, even the newer generation of child stars have a lot to worry about when it comes to greedy parents. Disney Channel star Billy Younger was taken advantage of by his own father, who was also his talent manager and business advisor for most of his young career. When Unger was 19, he finally sued his father, claiming that he'd misused over $400,000 of his son's earnings for personal benefit. These personal benefits included paying for his girlfriend's apartment and going on fancy vacations. Unger's father was apparently also claiming a 33% commission from his son, even though the norm in the industry is only 10 to 20%. The actor's father also took a $1 million life insurance policy out on his son and named himself the sole beneficiary, which is what finally convinced his son to bring him to court. This is exactly why you should never mix family with business. We've mostly talked about actors so far, but young musicians have their fair share of family troubles as well. Aaron Carter was one of the most successful young pop stars of his time, but when he was just 16 years old, his parents filed for divorce and forced him and his money into the middle of it. During the divorce proceedings, Aaron learned that his mother and manager Jane Carter had squandered nearly $100,000 of his money. The pop idol filed for legal emancipation, but things were even worse than they seemed. The singer's family was living in a $10 million home, and Aaron was supposed to have made about $20 million since the start of his career, but that money was nowhere to be found. Instead, he received about $2 million and found himself $4 million in debt, so he was pretty much broke. Aaron had to file for bankruptcy and still blames his parents for their gross mishandling of his young career. Leanne Rimes used to be the biggest star in country music and got her start when she was pretty young, with her father mostly in charge of her blossoming career and small fortune. But in 2000, when she was 17, she and her mother went to court over the alleged theft of her earnings. She claimed her father and her co-manager had stolen as much as $8 million of her money for personal use. They eventually settled the dispute in court, but Rimes went a few years without even speaking to her father until they reconciled in 2005. Would you like us to do a deep dive into any of these stars' complicated careers? Let us know in the comments section down below. Plus, don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to The Richest for more. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.